recognizing your own sense of oneness and what it takes to recognize it within someone else. The oneness state is hardly noticed, for it is in everyone, and if it was the most recognizable state, it would be easily noticed. The problem is, the problem from the lower sense of self, or the state of the where we no longer know the oneness, is that the original self, the highest state there is, the sense of source within ourselves, or the sense of where we know the oneness, is just so simple, it's hardly recognized by the human consciousness. We understood, or have understood through the ages, that the source of all of this, most people have anyway, must be something enormous, must have the greatest potential to inflict harm upon an individual if it's angered in any way, or it must be the greatest source of love that is so dynamic that it cannot be simple. But what if it was just the most simple state or force there is, so gentle that it would hardly be noticed by anyone who wasn't looking for it, by anyone who didn't want to name themselves as source and so looked for it within themselves? And it's very hard to pinpoint, except for in the state of meditation. And this is what we want everyone else to know, that you are the source of all. You are the source of all of this. And to find your most natural state is to just look for where it is the most gentle within the center of yourself. Within the center of your soul, if you prefer to know it as that. But we actually think of the soul as part of the lower self as well. It doesn't hold that highest state of wanting to know the oneness, in the sense that it isn't as simple, it isn't as gentle. And so when we want to know that highest state of the oneness, of the higher self, we look beyond the soul, in a sense, when we meditate. We just look for where it is most gentle within ourselves. Within the center of the chest is the most common place where we can negotiate between our higher and lower awareness to meet somewhere in the middle, so we can find this state. Again, on behalf of all, for when we are of that conscious awareness that we want to know it, for everyone else who wants to know this state, it begins that gentle flow out to someone else, out to the rest of the world. And that's when you will start to know it. In its own sense of awareness, it is still. When it wants to make that connection, that gentle emanation to what it doesn't know, it just simply emanates from its natural state. You will begin to feel that gentle flow. And that's when you can start to say to yourself, oh, I am the oneness. I feel it within myself. It is that most gentle trickling sensation, if you will, or it just is this stillness that is hollow. And at first, when we come upon that hollow state, we may think, this is darkness, this is terrifying, and I don't want to know any more of this part of myself. But if you were to stay with it, and you were to continue to consciously reach for that oneness, or that highest sense of self, the source within yourself, within the center of your chest, suddenly you will come to know what is still as the most complete sensation you've ever witnessed. And from that point, again, you may feel that trickle out to someone else. But hopefully you will just stay in that, and it would be reminiscent of Jill, or it would be reminiscent of whatever that person is called, because they can start to say, I am that. Not that it's some external source that's pulsating through Jill so someone else can know their higher self, but we are that as well. We are part of that oneness state. No one could be separate from it. No one could ever be far from it in this world. It's just that we have to want to know it, or else we'll be so distracted by this lower state, all the noise, whether it's the trickle of this river that I've sat next to, or the traffic on the highway behind it. It's just a distraction. It doesn't mean it's not wonderful. It doesn't mean I can't come and meditate by this stream of water still. But it's not still. And that stillness, and again, sometimes that gentle trickle, when we want to know it on behalf of someone else, is the oneness. And that's how you will know yourself. It's the stillness of the mental state that's within Jill within yourself, meaning that your human mind may never find that sense of stillness. It may continue its trickling or its utter nonsense in this world because that's what it does. It just doesn't recognize its own higher self, so it's just constantly trying to find it in something else, and it never actually stays still. But eventually you would be able to come to recognize your more normal self even while that mind is doing its more active state. The human self is busy every day, every moment. It rarely stays still. So again, just wanting to know that state of oneness and then being still enough to listen for it, or courageous enough to stay where it feels like it's an empty void and you think you're going to lose your own sense of self, which is in a good way, not in the way where your human mind will fracture in any way, but rather it will incorporate into your human self as well, where you will feel that state of oneness. You will feel more like I will as Jill, you will as yourself, in a more authentic way, and you'll notice it as such a benefit that you'll never want to let go, and you'll carry it with you, as does Jill, as does everyone else who wants to make it a priority in their world, so that you can feel more purposeful in this world, so that you can feel more that you know yourself, and everything about yourself every day is on purpose. It's purposeful, it's vibrant. It doesn't mean that you won't absorb the negative state of the world and won't have to constantly clean yourself and cleanse that heaviness that you feel like you've also absorbed, but you will feel more of your natural and normal state, and we hope that you'll find it, and we welcome you to just explore. It doesn't matter if you find that ultimate stillness state. You still will know yourself as the oneness, as the higher self, and we welcome you back to what you want to know, to what you want to explore, and so it is. Amen.